Chapter 9, Animals. Christopher Ashby Barrow looked up from his book. It was about crystal structures. New techniques were being developed to give images of crystalline forms. Philip Bragg had left a book inadvertently behind when he had gone, and Christopher was reading it as hastily as he could, for he had already written to Chris for it to be brought back with him when he came back for his final year first term. It was my brother's, was all else he had written. He looked at the pages and cover. Old book, new research. Which is why I'm going to Father's farm, Janet continued, sweeping a lock of butter-blonde hair behind her ear. Children are the harshest critics. They'll soon tell if the animals are not behaving authentically. She bent her head nearer her brother, sitting as he was in the chair much sat in by their great-uncle Ernest when he was puzzling over mathematics. I don't want to let the Marchioness down. Christopher smiled. A happy Janet was good news for everyone. And it could be guessed why she was happy. Although Georgie Crawley was being pushed towards Balliol again by his grandmother. Law. That would be a vital skill to have with the estate as it was. Lady Mary was fighting with every means she had that Downton Abbey was not sold to factory developers. And Law had been her first husband's, Georgie's grandfather's, profession. So you'll stay at Downton and write? Will animal stories keep you occupied enough? Christopher saw his sister move her feet. I can go to London, Lady Edith says. And she has offices in Oxford. There will be plenty of animal inspiration there. Then, Christopher replied, looking back to his book. You have a free column, the Marchioness had told her. Write about anything you like, not the Profumo affair. Chris had teased. What about our grandmother? She watched Chris's face change from amusement to seriousness. I think that Milo would be a superb and fitting thing to write about, he told his little sister. She had such an interesting and intriguing life, as well you know. He dipped his head. And I would know because you taught me. But I need to be careful, Janet replied, putting her hand to her bag, in which she kept her notebook, of observations, suppositions, random musings, and the ever-growing body of knowledge and first-hand accounts of their grandmother, me Lucina Ashby. Many people tell me lots of things about her, but they don't tell me everything. It's as if there's one big thing that they just can't say. Then write about animals, or anything your new boss desires, Christopher counseled, getting to his feet. He kissed Janet on the forehead as he passed, as he used to do when she was boisterous and trying to do a dozen things at once. Just spend the rest of your time finding out what it is. 88,888,888. The interview was at Ripon. Well, would she call it an interview? Janet Barrow had never had one before. But this felt like a friendly chat. Lady Edith, dressed as always in the richest couture suit, her slender figure, sat across from the editor's desk. That beautiful demeanor did nothing to mask the brisk and matter-of-factness that the Marchioness conveyed. She had edited fashion and lifestyle magazines for nearly 50 years and spoke with the demeanor of someone who was used to efficiency of time and words. Your grandfather conveyed to you that I would like you to write for my magazines. I have read what you wrote for school. Nephew Georgie showed me. I like what you do with words. I like the way you make your subject come alive. Lady Edith inclined her slender neck towards the page. Janet had been delighted to hear her grandfather's words. Thomas had sat her down in Ashby Cottage and, with her parents beside her, told her of the job offer from Lady Edith, and had sent a selection of work to the Marchioness, who had definitely read Janet's words, for she had picked out a couple and discussed the subjects with her. And what would you like me to write about? Janet pursued. I do not wish to do myself out of your generous offer. However, I know nothing of fashion and have little taste for topics that ladies such as yourself who will read your magazine. Lady Edith looked up, her eyes undimmed after over 70 years in the world. She narrowed them towards Janet. And yet I believe that you have the skill to make any topic intriguing. She nodded to her assistant, who was making notes beside her. Miss Marchington rose and poured tea from a Wedgwood teapot, wild strawberry was the design, into a cup of matching pattern. Yes, please, Janet agreed, when Lady Edith raised her eyebrows and nodded towards the tea tray. I mean, look here, you included a piece about architecture in Downton Village, as post-Elizabethan you described it. She placed down the leaves of the essay that Janet had submitted as one of her pieces for her school leavers certificate. And this, the demise of the steam engine, will Beeching's line cuts be reversed in 50 years? I believe they will be, Janet told Lady Edith, picking up her teacup. There will be a time, in the future, when roads will be full of cars and goods will be trapped in endless jams, and people will lament the closure of the lines, for transport and for freight. So, then, these topics give you interest, concluded Edith Pelham. You live in and around Downton. What do you think you should write about that would interest my readers? At this, Janet shook her head. So like her grandmother, Edith's mind mused for a second. Decisive, sharp, notices everything around her. I worry that what I write would not be suitable for your publications. Oh, and why would you say that? Can you think of nothing? That was the trouble, Janet told herself. She did nothing but think. But few people had interests as she did. I have read your work, Lady Edith pressed. Rarely have I read words put together with such elegance. I would have you write what you wish. I wish to write of the seasons, Janet told her, of farming and nature. I would write of Yorkshire and her moods, of the natural wonders of the place. I think anyone would love to hear of our lovely land. She put down her cup. And I have something to ask you, Lady Edith. Oh, rarely was the Marchioness wrong-footed. But she stumbled now, not sure where the girl was going. When Janet mentioned the one name which was on her mind, and that she was doing a personal research project on that person, Edith Pelham relaxed a little. Milo. Yes, of course I remember her. She looked like you, Edith added kindly. Yes ma'am. Edith saw Janet covertly withdraw a reporter's notebook from her shoulder bag. Lady Edith, please, you will never get anything done if you go around with ma'am. How will we ever speak to one another? And the story Lady Edith told Janet Barrow was duly written down into her notebook. It was about me Lucina Ashby and the first time she had got electric lights to work in the downstairs pantry, and Mrs. Patmore's delight. There was so much to your grandmother's skill. She worked with Lord Rutherford for a time. I know, Janet agreed. The more I find out about her the more proud I am to be her granddaughter. I just wish I had met her. And my grandfather, of course. A brief flash of ice, like hail on a summer's day, flashed between them, gone in the bright warmth of the cordiality that was Janet's interview and job offer. I'd love one day to write down about her life, though I do not think Thomas would be so pleased. He only likes to talk about Milo when he wants to. He won't talk if we bring her up. Another pause, imperceptibly small, but nonetheless. Lady Edith gestured towards the tea tray, and Miss Marchington put down the notebook of her own and got to her feet, collecting up the porcelain. Excellent, concluded Lady Edith. Best to hone your skills first. Your grandmother was a faithful, loving, caring person, and I am sure that one day the world will be delighted to hear of her. For now, Yorkshire and her moods. She is buried at the church at Downton, Janet continued, unwilling to let the topic of her grandmother go just yet. Her life is wrapped up so much with Downton Abbey. She looked earnestly at Lady Edith. I am sorry it is going to get sold and demolished. She did some marvellous things, Lady Edith agreed, desperate to change the subject. For Downton Abbey not to exist any longer was, to the second daughter of the Earl of Grantham, as much of a loss to her as a limb. Marvellous things, Janet repeated, as Lady Edith discussed the arrangements for Janet's employment, a weekly column, 1 day a week in the office at Ripon while she finished at school, and £3 10 for her trouble. Marvellous things, Janet thought to herself as she left the Ripon offices of the Lady and began to walk to the bus stop, for transport back to Downton. Milo, you did some marvellous things. She stepped into Jewry Street, walking past the premises of Bonner, solicitors. Whatever they were, Janet told herself, excitedly, I intend to find out.